I'm just catching up on the latest comments of my videos. I do appreciate every comment that gets posted, and I always try and acknowledge and respond to it, but sometimes there's just so many it's hard to keep up with. But I've noticed there's quite a few people with negatives towards my videos or constructive criticisms, and again, I'm not against them if they're constructive. I do take them on board and I try and weigh up what people are saying and find a happy balance. Quite a lot of people have commented on recent videos about the jump cuts, how my videos don't have the smoothest flow. And I know it's an issue with me, essentially. Half the time the problem I have is I just talk too fast. I start talking before I finish the sentence in my head, and then I change my mind halfway through, or I end up stumbling over my own words, and then I end up losing track and having to do it again. And some people have said get an auto cue. I still have the same problem because I talk faster than I read, and I still end up tripping over my own words. Basically, the solution I need is for me to slow down. So that's what I'm going to try and do today. This video, let's see how few a number of cuts I can get away with. Ideally, I'd love to do it in one take, but I know what I'm like. It probably won't work out like that. Okay, let's see. What else have we got? No dog. A lot of people like the dog. Do we want a dog? I can get a dog. Rusty, come on. Come on. Oh. Always over here. Microphone, you. You have a fan base, my friend. Lots of people want to see you. Okay, what else have we got? Lose the dog hairs on your top. T-shirts full of dog hairs. Shit. Okay. I might just have to stop occasionally during the video to do this. Don't mind me. Okay. Dog hairs free. What else have we got? In future, leave the dogs out of your blog. We're not interested in your dog humor. Sorry, the dog's a distraction. Are supposed to be funny. I stopped watching. Well, you're going to have to go. You're going to have to go. Don't look at me like that. It's not my fault. I want you here. They want you to go. Look at that face. Look at that face. You can't make him go. Look at that face. Look at that face. You can't make him leave. My dog, my video, I say he stays. Yes. Tell you what, we'll have a poll in the comment section. All those in favour of keeping the dog, and all those in favour of getting rid. I'll leave it up to you guys. But anyway, that is enough of all that. Today, let me find the right page. I prepared all my notes for this video so I can try and do it in one take. Today's topic is the rather heavily rumoured Nikon sub $1,000 camera that everyone's talking about. Nikon have confirmed they're working on a mirrorless version of the D5, a flagship pro body, which everyone's been asking for, a good rival to the A9. Will also mean that Nikon have to step up their lenses and go for some pro level lenses as well, and hopefully will drag Canon into the mix as well and give some real options for pro level mirrorless camera bodies. But the other one that's heavily rumored, the other body that's heavily rumored is a sub $1,000 full mirrorless camera. The problem is, at the minute, nobody seems to fully know not even have an inkling as to which direction it's going to go. They've heard plenty of speculation about a $1,000 body, but all the rumours that I've seen from different people contradict each other. Some saying that it's going to be a mid-tier body, while some say it's going to be an entry-level body. Some say that it could be full frame, some saying it could be APS-C. I think it's pretty safe to assume that it's not going to be a entry-level APS-C body, because at $1,000 that would be slightly expensive. I'm also pretty sure that it's not going to be a mid-tier full-frame camera, because that would be the Z6. So it's either going to be a mid-tier APS-C or an entry-level full-frame. quite a lot of people are speculating and hoping that it's going to be the full frame option. I actually think the complete opposite. I hope that it's going to be an APS-C because I don't think the cheap full frame option is going to work. Now, I know before I get crucified, let me go through this properly. So, first off, if it is a full frame entry-level option for less than $1,000, what are we looking at in terms of specs? Because bearing in mind the Z6, which is their current lowest full frame mirrorless option, is currently $1,800, was $2,000 at launch. So we're looking for a camera that's going to be half the price of the Z6. The Z6 is spec'd pretty similar to the A7 III, which is spec'd similar-ish to the EOS R and the Panasonic S1. All of them are in the same sort of ballpark in terms of general specs. There are obviously twos and pros and cons of each, but in terms of the amount of camera for your money, they're all about the same. They're all about the same sort of price. Hello. So what could Nikon do to bring the price down of a Z3, we'll call it? Seeing as how it's got to be half the Z6 anyway, what's it going to be? Well, look at what Canon had to do between the EOS R to the RP. Yes, they managed to bring the price difference down about $1,000. Between the launch price of the EOS R to the launch price of the RP was about $1,000 difference. But for that, they had to go with different sensors, which, to be fair, they already had the different sensors. The R sensor was the 5D Mark IV sensor. The RP was the 6D Mark II sensor. Nikon don't have that luxury because they've got the 24 megapixel sensor of the Z6. That's it. They'd have to come up with a whole brand new sensor because their older DSLRs, the D610, the D750, all their sensors were made by Toshiba. And then they switched over to Sony sensors. So likelihood is they're going to keep the Z6 sensor. But what else could they do? Shooting speed, perhaps? They could bring that down, yes. The video features, they could cripple those a bit. They could change it from an XQD to an SD card. They could, again, change the battery to something like the same battery that's in the entry-level APS-C DSLRs. That might well bring the price down to $1,000. But the specs of it are not going to be particularly appealing. And then, if we look at sales figures, this is where it gets interesting. Last month, there was a report that showed the sales percentages of full-frame mirrorless cameras in Japan. Sony A7 III topped the charts by a country mile with 43% of the sales, followed by the Canon EOS R with 14%, followed by the RP with 12%, followed by the Z6 with 9%, and the A7 II, which was discontinued, I believe, by Sony, but they still have stocks that they sell brand new. That was only, well, even less. So a much smaller percentage. Then if we look at Amazon.com. On Amazon.com, you can look at the top selling items for particular categories. So for the top selling items of mirrorless cameras, now bearing in mind this is APS-C and full frame, and also they have multiple different versions, the listings for the same items. So they might have the A7 III body only, A7 III with a kit lens, A7 III with other accessories. They're classed as 3 separate listings. So of all the different listings of cameras that are on the market in the mirrorless category, the A7 III was the third highest listed, the third most sold, the 23rd, 30th, 40th, 41st, 47th, and 50th. The A7 II was only the 7th highest. So there's far more units of A7 IIIs being sold than A7 IIs. Even though the A7 II is half the price of the A7 III, which would essentially be the same as the Z6 versus the Z3, far more people want the better performance and are willing to pay that higher price tag for that better performance. Now, you might be thinking, well, hang on, the A7 II is a previous generation camera versus the 3, which is a current. That's not apples to apples, okay? The EOS R 18th highest, 44th, 58th, and 82nd highest positions on Amazon, while the RP is only 62nd. So again, not only in the Japan sales, but also the Amazon.com sales, far more people are buying the EOS R over the RP. They're quite happy to spend $700 or $800 more for those better features. While the Z6 is only 54th and 96th in the listings. So on all sales figures, two patterns are forming. First is that people are prepared to spend that little bit more for those better features, and second is Nikon are nowhere near Canon or Sony. So surely by that logic, if those trends stay the same, a low-priced Nikon mirrorless camera would sell fewer than the Z6, which is fewer than everything else anyway, so isn't going to be that big of an appeal. It's not going to be like a huge change to the market. It may well be $1,000, but I don't think that's actually going to make that much of a difference. But the thing I noticed from that Amazon.com page is that while there are quite a few full frame cameras in the top 100 listings, there are far more APS-C. That top quarter, that top half of the listings is primarily M50s, A6000s, A6400s, Fuji X-T2s, X-T3s, X-T20s, all APS-C cameras. So people will spend the money, but they want the performance, and people who are on a budget are more inclined to buy a decent spec APS-C camera than a cheap full frame. And I know full frame is becoming cheaper and cheaper, but so is APS-C, and so is Micro Four Thirds. So I think Nikon would be better placed. I think it would make more sense for them to bring out a decent mid-tier APS-C camera, because both Sony and Canon are pretty well established in APS-C mirrorless cameras. Nikon have got nothing. Now, I know what you might be thinking at that point. Hang on, Dave. When they announced the Z6 and Z7, they brought out a lens roadmap showing all the lenses that were coming in the next year or two, and there was nothing that looked remotely like an APS-C lens, and it would be pretty stupid of them to bring out an APS-C body and not bring out any APS-C lenses. Quite right, totally agree. However, I also highly doubt that Nikon would announce in a roadmap 2 years down the line, they're going to be bringing out APS-C lenses for an APS-C body they haven't actually mentioned yet. So it's more than likely that if they are bringing out an APS-C body, they're not going to mention the APS-C lenses in the roadmap until the camera comes out. So when the APS-C body, if an APS-C body does come out, they could update the lens roadmap or bring out a new one with the APS-C lenses showing where they're going with that lineup. And I think that would be the more sensible choice for them, to bring out like a mirrorless version of the 7200, 7500, even the D500. If they brought out a mirrorless D500 before Sony brought out the likes of the A7000, big game changer. But they think to get ahead of the competition rather than just dawdle behind them all, just trying to copy what they do, because it's seemingly not working. The sales figures are saying that quite clearly. But what do you guys think? Do you think they should do a really cheap full frame? Do you think that will have an impact? Should be an APS-C? Leave your thoughts and comments in the box down below. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.